Are the World Bank and IMF serving the Global South's best interests? Is it time for a change? In this video, we delve into the criticisms of these financial institutions, from their historical dominance by Western powers to the controversial programs that have shaped economies with mixed results. We explore the origins of the IMF and World Bank, their impact on global development, and why nations from the BRICS East to the broader Global South are seeking alternatives like the New Development Bank to foster more equitable and sustainable growth. Before we proceed, we encourage you to consider liking the video to show your support for our channel. Additionally, we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Your feedback is invaluable and will help us reach a wider audience. Thank you for your support. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, was created in July 1944 during the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference, commonly known as the Bretton Woods Conference, held in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, USA. The primary purpose of the IMF was to ensure the stability of the international monetary system, the system of exchange rates and international payments that enables countries to transact with each other. The World Bank, formerly known as the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, was also established as a result of the Bretton Woods Conference. Initially, its main focus was to finance the reconstruction of nations devastated by World War II. Both institutions have faced criticism over the years for various reasons, including their governance structure, which many argue disproportionately favors wealthy countries, and the conditionality of their loans, which some say have often led to negative economic outcomes in the recipient countries. Despite these criticisms, the IMF and World Bank continue to play critical roles in the global economy, especially in terms of providing financial support and expert advice to developing countries. The operational policies of the IMF, for instance, were influenced by a desire to prevent the economic destabilization seen in the interwar period, but resulted in a system that allowed for significant U.S. influence over international monetary policy. This dominance is not only historical, but also structural, as seen in the distribution of voting power within the institutions, which heavily favors wealthy nations at the expense of the Global South, creating what some have termed an economic apartheid. Critiques also focus on the policy prescriptions and conditionalities attached to financial assistance provided by the IMF and the World Bank. Structural adjustment programs, SAPs, implemented from the late 20th century, aimed at promoting economic liberalization, privatization, and deregulation in borrowing countries. However, these programs have been widely criticized for exacerbating economic inequalities, undermining social welfare systems, and prioritizing debt repayment over public investment in essential services. The SAPs have often been linked to periods of economic stagnation, increased poverty, and social unrest in the Global South, notably referred to as the lost decade in Latin America during the 1980s. The World Bank's approach to poverty alleviation and development has also faced criticism for its effectiveness and impact on the environment. Projects financed by the World Bank have been scrutinized for their environmental implications and for not adequately addressing the root causes of poverty. The institution's Poverty Reduction Strategy Papers, PRSPs, while intended to be country-led and focused on poverty alleviation, have been criticized for lacking long-term vision and for sometimes serving as a facade for continuing neoliberal economic policies. Moreover, the governance and decision-making processes within the World Bank and IMF are seen as undemocratic, with a disproportionate influence of wealthy nations. This has led to calls for reforming these institutions to ensure more equitable representation and decision-making power for countries in the Global South. Suggestions include democratizing the leadership selection process and implementing a double-majority voting system that would require both shareholder and member state majorities for significant decisions, thereby giving Global South countries a fairer say in policies that affect them. BRICS nations and other Global South countries are increasingly seeking to distance themselves from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, due to a variety of reasons. These include dissatisfaction with the conditions attached to the funding provided by these institutions, a desire to reduce dependence on the US dollar, and a push for more equal representation and voice in global financial governance. In response, these countries are exploring alternatives and establishing new mechanisms for development financing and economic cooperation. One significant move in this direction is the establishment of the New Development Bank, NDB, by the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The NDB, operational since 2015, aims to mobilize resources for infrastructure and sustainable development projects within BRICS countries and other emerging market economies. It is designed to serve as an alternative to the traditional Western-dominated financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank, providing a more equitable platform for developing countries. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has emphasized the NDB's role in freeing emerging countries from the constraints of traditional financial institutions. During his visit to China, more than 20 bilateral agreements were reached between Brazil and China, highlighting the deepening economic ties between BRICS nations and their concerted effort to create a new global economic architecture that diminishes the influence of the IMF, World Bank, and the U.S. dollar-based international trading system. The NDB has an initial capital of $50 billion, with an equal share voting basis among the BRICS countries. Each of the 5 signatories contributed $10 billion. The bank's capital is intended for financing infrastructure and sustainable development projects initially in BRICS countries, with the possibility for other low- and middle-income countries to apply for funding. Additionally, a $100 billion contingency reserve arrangement, CRA, has been created to provide liquidity protection to member countries during balance of payments problems. Moreover, efforts are being made by BRICS nations to trade in currencies other than the US dollar, which could potentially revolutionize the global economy. Initiatives like the creation of a digital currency by India and the adoption of China's yuan as one of Russia's primary reserve and settlement currencies illustrate these efforts. These moves are part of a broader strategy to create an alternative to the US dollar-dominated global financial system, allowing countries to trade in their respective currencies. However, there are inherent challenges and risks in these undertakings. The success of the NDB and other similar initiatives could be threatened by internal economic issues within the BRICS countries and potential divergences in their national interests. Additionally, while the establishment of the NDB and the CRA aims to reduce dependence on the US dollar and provide an alternative to the IMF and World Bank's funding conditions, it remains to be seen how these new institutions will navigate the complex landscape of international finance and whether they will be able to offer a truly equitable and sustainable alternative for global development finance. In conclusion, the efforts by BRICS and Global South nations to distance themselves from the World Bank and IMF reflect a broader desire for more autonomy in global economic governance. By establishing alternative financial institutions and mechanisms, these countries aim to create a more balanced and equitable global financial system that better addresses their development needs and reduces their dependence on Western-dominated institutions and the US dollar. We hope you find this video informative. Do not forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching.